Good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Well, good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. Good morning, Spud McKenzie. Thanks for joining us. Now, let's get into honoring God with our body. God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my ears. Oh, I'm sorry. Please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over our mouths. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for our feet and a light on our path. So we try to say that every morning here on Unfiltered Vision News. And for anybody who's new out there joining us today, thank you for stopping by and welcome. So we're going to get into, the topics of the day. We're going to start with all sides and go through some of the highlighted articles that it came across. There's some of the headlines, and we went over this actually yesterday. So, new documents accuse Dr. Fauci of lying about COVID-19 origins, research, and funding. And I really got into that yesterday, just looking at the pardon, how he was pardoned back to 2014. And amen, Spud McKenzie, thank you so much for sharing that. And just how not only was Fauci pardoned back to 2014, but there were also members of the Biden family that went back to 2014. And I was like, okay, why would you go back to the time when you were actually serving as the vice president to pardon all of these people? What was really going on? It just seemed really awkward to me and nefarious, because I'm like, why wouldn't you just pardon Fauci from 2020? To me, that would make sense, right? Because if everything was about COVID, but COVID wasn't going on in 2014. So those are the bigger questions that I brought up. But apparently, the outgoing director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, released newly declassified documents related to the origin of COVID-19, research funding through the NIH, right? and actions taken by Dr. Anthony Fauci and other intelligence community members. So they're still combing through that paperwork. But at the end of the day, here's my thing: is anybody going to go to prison? Or is this going to be just another thing that we get to hear about? I think the American people are kind of tired of just hearing about things and people actually not coming to justice and actually being punished for their crimes. It's weird. It's like you could steal a stick of gum and somebody wants to put you in jail for 5 years, but you can completely defraud the government and everybody find out about it and you just walking around scot-free. Sorry. That's what it's looking like. We found out all this stuff under the Epstein files. Has anybody went to jail? They went to jail for espionage, pretty much, but not for harming the children. So the children, it's okay to do that. Now, a lot of people might sit out and say, no, it's not okay. Apparently it is because nobody's in prison for it. Okay? Facts are facts. Now, who qualifies for lower student loan interest rates, right? So for the center, it says Trump's student loan rate cut excludes most of the 9 million borrowers in default. Wow, that's kind of crazy. And the DEA permitted hundreds of thousands of fentanyl pills in favor of bigger cases. Interesting. So when I was reading through the headlines of this, from the right, center, and left, the center said, the DEA failed to seize thousands of fentanyl pills it was aware of. And then on the left, it says staggering amounts of fentanyl hit streets as the DEA watched to take no action, records show. Very interesting because this stuff has always happened, right? We can go back to COINTELPRO. We can go back to a lot of these documents that are now surfacing, right? Because they've served their 50 years and now they can be released to the general public, where the CIA has actually done experiments on the general public. MK Ultra is real, right? Is that why they're permitting fentanyl? Fentanyl is supposed to be so deadly that if you touch it, you can die. And they were allowing hundreds of thousands of pills in favor of bigger cases. Interesting. Like I said, somebody's ordering this. Somebody is placing an order and somebody's filling the order. If it's coming to America, somebody here on this soil placed the order. Who placed the order and why are they in prison? Right. It's that part. It always comes back to that, in my opinion. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer resigns. What? Okay. All right. WAPO report suggests Tulsi Gabbard relied heavily on mentors outside messaging, and Gabbard's team pushes back. You know, she's a smart woman, okay? And she's been in the military. So some of these things she may have been able to piece together. And some of those things people may have been sharing with her that have been previously there. I think all of them do that, whether it's for or against making people look good or bad. It happens. Apparently, Vance talks with Iran and Switzerland. Iran says it closed her moves over Israel's Lebanon campaign. And I think we all saw the writing on the wall for that one. And then Trump orders immediate repairs to the reflecting pool after police arrest 5, including a U.S. Olympian. What? Just a mess. Just a mess. All right, so let's get into our trending topics on X. So apparently Comey's 8647 post leads to federal indictment. I don't think he's going to go to jail. I think it's a lot of noise. That's just my opinion. A Texas woman claims beating by Free Carmelo group after murder verdict. Okay, so she got beat up by a Free Carmelo. Okay, sad. We shouldn't be doing that. Okay, it's very contentious. Everybody has their opinions. Should we try to combat violence with violence? No. Use your words. I mean, people need to start using their words in a better way, in my opinion. It's okay to disagree with somebody. It really, really is okay to disagree. You don't have to agree on everything. right? I agree on freedom. I'll fight for some freedom. Maybe not to the death. I don't know, but I'll fight for freedom. And then the MLB assures no discipline for Giants pitchers. Bible verse on pride hats. Okay, I don't even know. I don't even want to know. Do I want to know? Do I want to go down that rabbit hole? What? No discipline for a pitcher. Okay, for his Bible verses on pride hats. Okay, so apparently they got pride hats, and then he put a Bible verse on. He's like, if you're gonna make me wear this hat, I'm gonna put some Jesus on here because I need it. He shouldn't suffer any discipline. It shouldn't be a part of the MLB. Okay, that would be like, and I'll use Black Lives Matter as an example. That would be like forcing the players to wear something but like Black Lives Matter. Okay. I know we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month and they wear the pink cleats and they do all these things. Should that happen? No. And you can get mad if you want to for me saying it. The answer is no. They are playing for a team. Now, so again, some people might get mad. Well, I had somebody that suffered a cancer. I had my grandmother. She survived breast cancer. She died from ovarian cancer. Horrible, right? But I don't think players should be getting involved and be forced to go along with some of these things. That's not why the sport is there. And I know they do it because they want to, get awareness out there. That's great. Play a commercial during a game or something that people are going to watch so that there's more eyeballs. But stop forcing these players by advertising these certain things. They are there to play baseball or football or basketball. They are not there to be NASCARs to have things slapped on them when you think it's okay. It's weird. It needs to stop at all levels. Knock it off. If you want to advertise during a certain game and sponsor maybe the halftime report to talk about your cause, awesome. But stop getting the players involved because it's leading to nonsense like this, in my opinion. Okay. Now, I wanted to get to some more of these topics here. So RFK today, I'll let him say it because I think there's audio for him.
Today, a compliant child must take between 69 and 92 vaccines to stay in school in some states. And not one of them has been safety tested in a pre-licensing placebo-controlled trial. And that is just malpractice. So the people who were in charge of that are now gone. Today, a compliant child must take between 69 and 92.
So those people are gone now. And I'm glad because it needs to be tested more. Because when I was growing up, I think I got maybe 4 or 5. By the time I had children, my kids got maybe 10. So a little bit more than me. Now it's up to almost 100 shots to stay in school. What? If anything, they had to take like a tuberculosis test, right? To not an annual one, but every couple of years. So by the time they were like 10 or 11, they had to do like a booster kind of test. What are they doing? And a lot of this stuff isn't tested. Now, a lot of people might say, RFK, oh, he's just doing this. No, he's an attorney. And he actually went to court and won cases against the federal government. So if anybody's well-read on the nonsense, and he's a Kennedy, so he really just grew up in government. Okay. He's a traditional Democrat. Okay. Grew up Democrat. That's it. And the Democratic Party didn't want him. Yeah. Let's talk about that later. I'm just saying. Okay. So now we've got a representative, Mike. Let me see. Pause this. Mike Bost, the Republican of Illinois, shares with his takeaways from a letter that the Postal Service sent in response to his and 12 of his colleagues' questions about agency policy which could delay the delivery time, sensitive mail, including mail-in ballots. Interesting.
Since December 31st of last year, we've been trying to get answers from this place. This is the headquarters for the USPS in Washington, D.C. Over the holidays, the agency adopted a rule, which it has called a clarification. In short, the day the Postal Service stamps your mail doesn't indicate the day they actually accept your mail. That stamp is called a postmark. The rule has put a strain on election officials in these 14 states. Their mail-in ballots that are postmarked by Election Day count, even if they're delivered a certain number of days late. It was one reason why more than a dozen Republican House members signed a letter to the Postmaster General, asking why they issued this rule and about the effect on rural Americans in particular. What is your understanding of how this rule could affect your constituents?
Well, the concern we had with the rule was that the postmarks would then not be, they could be 3 and 4 and 5 days down the road after you have dropped the mail. That was the communication we received. The postmaster did respond back to us and very quickly, and that was a misunderstanding from what we can tell, because the concern that we have is postmarks that don't happen. There's a lot of laws in place that say if you're going to mail in a ballot, you know, you're depending on which state you're in, you have to have it postmarked by a certain time. You have to have certain postmarks in on taxes. You have to have certain postmarks in on, the list goes on and on. So the concern that we had, he expressed that was not ever the intent of what they're changing or what they're going to do. He has told us, but we're still going to keep a close eye on it.
This letter is the Postal Service's response, and agency officials stress that their postmarking practices have not or are not changing, and that same-day postmarking has never been guaranteed. The Postal Service has long recommended a common-sense measure that voters who choose to vote by mail should plan ahead and vote early. Still, this guidance doesn't fully address concerns that election mail will lag. The Postal Service has touted near-perfect delivery rates in past election years, but those were prior to major changes the agency has made to where and how often it processes mail. This paragraph from the House member's letter gets into the specifics. The worry is that mail deposited later in the day now sits overnight and fails to receive an accurate postmark. One election clerk from Illinois, John Ackerman, said he documented at least a dozen mail-in ballots from a primary election last month in his county with these two characteristics. 1, a handwritten date on the envelope at least a day before Election Day. 2, a postmark of after Election Day. Reporting for Declare, I'm Miranda Combs in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, this is going to be a hot topic. It really, really is. And especially with the Supreme Court still yet. And we've obviously, we just touched on this, but apparently, let me pause that, reset it. On camera, Peter Daszak admitted the Wuhan lab was genetically creating killer super coronaviruses to sell vaccines. Shocker. U.S. taxpayer money funded it. That's not an allegation. It's on video. All right.
Fauci pushing the unproven theory that the COVID pandemic came out of a wet market in China, but then that was Eco Health Alliance chief killer super coronaviruses. This is gain of function research to sell vaccines. Health Alliance did to do this dangerous research. And now former DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents showing the CIA warned Dr. Fauci about a Wuhan lab accident where lab workers did get infected in late 2019. Let's bring in Dr. Peter McCullough. Doctor, what's your take on them talking about this? The documents show a government official under Joe Biden said they saw this video of Daszak talking about inserting spike proteins into viruses to make them super viruses more infectious to bind to human cells. What's your take?
Fauci, when he was talking about the wet lab, he was lying through his teeth. He knew all the while that SARS-CoV-2 was created in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and his influence was enormous through the intelligence community, the academic community.
Yeah. So the question is, can they come after him again? Well, if there's new evidence, just saying. Now, this next article I want to get to, this is happening in New York.
Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mandami, who do want to give you, quote, free stuff, just not free peanuts at Five Guys. They're out campaigning in direct defiance against long-serving members of their Democrat Party.
But one of their intended candidates is under fire for her views on whether murderers should go to prison.
Bill Melugin is live at the White House with the very latest. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Griff, good morning to you. It is not going to surprise anybody these days, but New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani is standing firmly by the side of a fellow Democratic socialist running for Congress in New York. And this is a person who has said a lot of things that raise a whole lot of eyebrows and has basically taken about as far left positions as you can get. So we'll get into her. Her name is Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier. She's running for Congress in New York's 13th district. She has said a number of things in now deleted posts between 2018 and 2022 on social media, including that she wants to abolish borders, abolish prisons, and police is abolishing all those things is, quote, possible, necessary, and the only moral way forward. She has also said that all deportation is wrong and, quote, yes, literally abolish the border. She's also made some anti-American comments saying, quote, this country is a effing disgrace in another post. She also added, quote, I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me in yet another post. Now, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders were both campaigning for Chevalier in New York on Thursday.
And that, my friends, is why we need to elect Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier. Dari is exactly who the people of the Bronx and Upper Manhattan deserve representing them in Congress.
The next 4 days, everybody here and everybody in the city has got to work hard to make sure that Brad and Claire and Daria Lisa become the next congresspeople for New York City.
Now listen to this. Chevalier sat down with the New York editorial board where she repeatedly dodged questions on how she thinks murderers should be handled as a self-proclaimed prison abolitionist. The questioner said, quote, I went to a sentencing last week. A man killed another man, didn't know the person, just sitting on a stoop, got an 18-year prison sentence. Should that person not go to prison, and what should happen instead? She replies, quote, so, you know, for prison abolitionists, I think a lot of folks misunderstand what that vision of the world actually is, and it is one that actually centers this question of harm. At the heart of what we're asking is, why is that there? Why is there that there's so much harm in our society? She ended up dodging that question multiple times. And back out here live, she's also running on completely abolishing ICE. She's previously called Joe Biden a rapist. She's previously said, quote, F Kamala Harris. Back during the COVID-19 pandemic, she urged the government to provide about $3,000 a month to everybody in basic universal income. She said pharmaceutical companies and private medical insurance should be dissolved. She also suggested that Medicare should be expanded to every single citizen and private property be seized from landlords. So that right there is what gets you an endorsement from Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani these days, guys. We'll send it back to you.
Wow. Unbelievable. All right, Bill Melugin, thank you.
Thanks, you, Bill.
You know, it's really amazing when you look at where all of these things are, these policies are taking, or politicians rather, are taking hold. They're all in Democrat strongholds. This everywhere you look at where this stuff, this rot is being sold is in places where Democrats have had a stranglehold on politics for a long time. This is not a rejection of America or American values or Republicans. This is a rejection of the Democrat Party. That's the only places this nonsense flourishes are in places where Democrats have controlled for many, many years. And if you go around and you talk to, and they love to talk about the working class, you talk to anybody who is a normal worker in this country, they are not talking about open borders. They are not talking about abolishing prisons. They are not talking about giving the government this power to take everything away from people. I think that this stuff, it flourishes in places like New York City, and then it dies there.
You know, asking a candidate if a murderer should go to prison is not a trick question. It's unbelievable that this is the candidate. But I think at the root of this is our education system. Yes, you're right. It's going to, these ideas, these communist foreign ideas, because communism is foreign to our country, is brought here by the progressives.
Does not
and the
work
Bolsheviks.
with any of our ideals.
Completely true. So it's this foreign idea that's been implanted. And
So I wanted to pause it right there. Now, if you noticed, a lot of there were a lot of different signs behind her, and it's because they're running as a slate. And it's interesting because I have been encouraging that, because that's actually how we won the town of Roseland as the Redemption Party. They ran as a slate. So now that's starting to catch on, because people are like, okay, we can completely flip the table if you guys all run together, because we know you're all on the same page. Now, if there are more people that come out that are these democratic socialists, that's going to happen. And it's interesting because really the only people that can afford socialism are the people that have money, telling everybody else that everything should be equal and that millionaires and billionaires are evil people. But you're the same millionaires and billionaires. You have money. You can afford socialism. But for the average person, they can't. And you're telling them, nope, you shouldn't have a business. The government will take care of you. Well, what happens when the money runs out? Because if no one's working, no one's paying taxes, who's paying the taxes now? Because no one's working, right? So nobody can buy anything. Socialism does not work. It doesn't work. It leads to death and destruction. It doesn't work. And it's going to be interesting because people are going to find this out the hard way. Now, what I did is I took a look at, it's actually the Federalist 10 papers. Sorry, you guys, because I always talk about Federalist 19 and Thomas Jefferson. No, it's actually Federalist 10, James Madison. So if you hear me talking about the Federalist 19 papers, I meant this, but I completely got the numbers wrong and the person. So I do apologize. So I'm doing this kind of as a retraction, but also to point out some facts just about where I see New York City and New York State heading. So here's an outline of the Federalist 10 papers and the warning. So yes, here's a clear outline. And this was written by James Madison in November 22, 1787. And these Federalist papers were pretty much done by individuals that had founded the country, some not, but they were in the political realm and they had a voice to point out, okay, we just got this country together, because as you notice, that's 1787. So that's after 1776, obviously. And really writing to inform people, hey, if we go down a certain path, we may not have a country anymore. So you need to be careful. So a lot of these papers were really warnings. So a well-constructed union, this was the main thesis, right? The proposed U.S. Constitution, right, is the best safeguard against the dangers of factions in a popular Republican government. Factions are the greatest threat to stability, justice, and liberty in democracies, right? But a large republic can control their harmful effects. So that was very interesting to me. And it says here, Madison defines a faction as a number of citizens, whether amounting to a majority or a minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest adverse to the rights of other citizens. So, for example, she was like, oh, yeah, people shouldn't be put in prison, should be abolished. And when she was asked, so should this murderer be set free? She wouldn't answer the question. But based on what you've been saying, you want a murderer set free. And it is adverse to the rights of other citizens because it's going to put other people in danger. Yeah. Or to the permanent and aggregate interest of the community. So factions arise naturally from human nature, right? Especially from unequal distribution of property, the most common and durable source, but also from religion, politics, leaders' ambitions, etc. So it's not just, that's what I really want to show. It's like, it's not just the Democratic Socialists. It can also be individuals that have a religious zealot mindset as well. It would put other people in danger because they're not thinking about the safety of others. They're just saying, my idea is better than yours, and you need to do what I say. And and hello from Dubai. Hello, Dubai. Thank you for joining us this morning. And so the problem, why factions are dangerous in pure direct democracies, right? Small societies, factions easily become tyrannical majorities that sacrifice the public good and minority rights. Popular governments have historically suffered from instability, injustice, and confusion due to factional violence. Factions, not fascist, factions. Okay, two totally different words. We'll get into fascism later. Not today, but at a later time. So minority factions can be controlled by majority rule, but majority factions are the real threat. So it's balance, pretty much, right? So if abolishing prisons and letting murderers run free, is anybody safe at that point? Or are we just living the purge life, right? We'd be living the purge life. And everybody would be like, why are the murderers walking around free, abusing everybody? Hello, there needs to be somebody in charge, or people need to take charge to lock up other people from harming everybody else. That's the balance, right? So, two ways to cure the mischiefs of faction. Madison systematically rejects one approach and endorses the other, removing the causes impossible without destroying liberty and Republican government, right? That's what it says, balance. Destroy liberty. This is worse than the disease. Liberty is to faction what air is to fire. Eliminating it eliminates faction, but also eliminates freedom. Okay. Give everyone the same opinions, passions, and interests. Okay. This is impractical and utopian. Human diversity, especially in property, makes it impossible. Yeah. Because some people are okay living in a 200 square foot house, but some people might want a 5,000 square foot house. What's right? What's wrong? It's neither. It's what you prefer. But you can't demand that some people live in a 200 square foot house while other people live in a 5,000 square foot house, but make demands on other people. Because is everybody going to get the same or not? Again, it's balance. So conclusion, causes of faction cannot be removed in a free society. We must focus on controlling the effects. So it gets into controlling effects, the warnings. And I say, can you give a comparison of today? So I use that video in comparison with the Federalist 19 Papers. And it was very interesting to see the parallels. So faction driven by passion, ideology over public safety. So Madison, factions often stem from zeal for opinions, leaders, ambitions, or interests that disregard the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. So in the video, the candidate's platform, abolish prisons, open borders, reflects a strong ideological faction with progressive Democrat socialist circles. Critics argue this prioritizes abstract ideas, viewing prisons as inherently oppressive over protecting law-abiding citizens' rights to safety and property. This echoes Madison's fear of factions sacrificing justice for passionate causes. So he already saw this down the road over, like what, 200 years ago? Because we're about to do 250. So, a little over 200 years ago, he saw it. He was like, look, we're not going to be a utopia. But at the same time, we have to have balance. So I will definitely link this for you guys to get more into it. But I just found that fascinating. Here we are. We are at the very place that he said there are certain things you shouldn't do. Because if you do it, it's just not going to go well. It's just not going to go well. But thank you guys for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And I do apologize if I was going through it and you guys couldn't see it. But just to stay on top of things, here it all is. Just so you know what I was reading from. But thank you again for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. We'll be back tomorrow with our Women in Wellness Wednesday. So again, remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.